Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please have a seat. You may proceed, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Can you state your name and spell it for the court reporter?
Yes, my name is Paul Tucker. P-A-U-L.
Oh, can you turn on your microphone, sir? I forgot to tell you that. Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Paul Tucker. P-A-U-L-T-U-C-K-E-R.
And what is your occupation?
I work as a paramedic for Medic Ambulance of Scott County.
And how long have you been a paramedic?
I've been a paramedic since November of 2008.
And were you working on a paramedic or as a paramedic in the early morning hours of March 14th, 2024?
I was.
And were you dispatched to a single vehicle accident near the area of Harrison Street and East 90th?
I was.
And what was your understanding as far as what that call entailed as you were en route?
Dispatch information suggested that there was a single vehicle car accident, and upon arriving on scene, that's indeed what we came across.
Okay. What did you observe when you arrived on scene?
Significant front-end damage. The car had struck a light pole. The patient was restrained. Didn't seem to have any obvious significant injuries to his body area. Didn't really...
And I'll stop you right there.
My apologies.
You're okay. Was anyone else on scene when you arrived?
Law enforcement was on scene.
Okay. And do you remember who the law enforcement was? And if not, that's not a big deal.
I don't.
Okay. Do you remember the weather that evening?
It was a cool evening. I can't recall the exact conditions.
Okay. What observations did you make of the driver when you arrived on scene?
He appeared to be very withdrawn. Not really quick to respond, but is responding appropriately when responding.
Okay. And did you say responding appropriately or inappropriately?
No, appropriately. I mean, he would answer questions appropriately. He was able to give correct answers, but just was slow in doing so.
Okay.
Did not seem to be very emotional, a very flat affect, in my opinion.
Okay. And what types of questions were you asking him, if you remember?
Essentially, to see if he was hurting anywhere, first and foremost, and inquiring as to whether or not he was trying to hurt himself or not.
Okay. And do you remember if he reported that he was hurt in any way?
He was complaining of some abdominal pain.
And what did you do, I guess, when you arrived on scene, and was he in the driver's seat, or where was he at that time?
He was in the driver's seat.
And then,
yeah.
What did you do from that point?
He was able to exit the vehicle primarily under his own power, and we got him onto the cot, put him in the ambulance, and treated him from there.
Okay. So you put him in the ambulance.
Yeah.
Where did you take him?
We transported him to Genesis East.
Okay. And then once you drop him off, do you have any further, with the car accident, did you have any further duties or obligations?
No.
Okay.
In terms of his injuries, he did have like a laceration / puncture wound to his like proximal pubis area.
Okay. And for the non-medical personnel, can you explain what you mean by the proximal pubis area?
His lower left abdominal area, like upper groin area, essentially.
And once you dropped him off at the hospital, let me back up a minute. Did you observe any other injuries on him?
No.
And is that something you're trained to look for as a paramedic, essentially assess for injuries?
It is.
And once you dropped him off at the hospital, did you do anything else with respect to the automobile accident?
No.
Okay. Later on that evening, were you called to respond to an address in Parkview?
I was.
And was that 105 Crestview in Parkview?
Correct.
And what was the nature of that call?
That was for a probable 1079, also like a dead person.
Okay, so 1079 is code for a deceased person.
Correct.
What did you observe when you arrived on scene at the apartment?
I witnessed a body on the opposite side of the doorway leading into the apartment. Witnessed blood splatter and injuries that, in my professional opinion, were not sustainable to supporting life.
Okay, and I don't think I asked you before, how long have you been a paramedic?
17 years now, almost, since
Okay.
2008.
And going back to the scene now, did you do anything else to confirm whether the individual was deceased?
Yes, we connected or applied our cardiac monitor to the patient's body to confirm that there was no pulse.
And you ended up doing that?
Correct.
And did you find a pulse?
No, there was no pulse.
And
Or electrical activity.
did you have any further, did you do anything else on scene?
No.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Puentes?
Thank you. I'm just gonna ask you a few, I guess I'm gonna ask you some relevant times. Do you happen to have a copy of your report with you?
Not on me.
Okay. If you don't have, or if you don't recall the answers to these questions, just let me know and I can provide you, for a short period of time, your report so you can kind of refresh your recollection. Does that make sense to you?
Say that again, please.
Yeah, I can just give you the report so you can kind of review it and kind of help you remember
Okay.
sometimes, okay? So can you tell me what time you arrived on scene? That would have been at the location of the single motor vehicle accident.
I would have to refer to the report.
I expected as much. Permission to approach?
You may.
I'm just gonna show you on the, just to make it easy for you, and I know you're familiar with your reports, but the times are over here. Just review them briefly, see if that helps refresh your recollection, and then please don't read from it, just let me know when you're sufficiently refreshed.
So, well, in order to answer your first question, it appears that we arrived on scene at 1:56.
Alright, so are you starting to have some more recall after reviewing your report?
I'm sorry, let me review it longer.
Okay.
My apologies.
Go ahead, take your time. I'll just ask the question again now that you've had an opportunity to refresh yourself. What time approximately do you arrive on scene?
1:56 a.m.
Okay. And do you know what time you left? In other words, that you began transporting the patient?
I would have to review the report again.
If the state will allow it, I'll just state the time from the report and you can tell me if that sounds right. Will you allow it? All right. The report reads that you were at the patient at 1:57. Does that sound right?
If that's what the report says, then yes,
Okay. Transport at 2:10. Does that sound correct?
it does.
All right. And then it looks like you reached your destination, which would have been the hospital at 2:29 a.m. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, when you arrived, you already testified as to what you observed. You started communicating with the patient, which is just kind of standard operating procedure, correct?
It is.
And you at least get answers to the degree that the patient is able to give them. Is that right?
Yes.
I presume the questions you ask are specifically for the care of the individual. Is that right?
They are.
In other words, there's a medical explanation or a medical reason for the questions that you're that you're asking, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and some of those questions received a response with respect to pain in the lower abdomen, is that right?
That's right.
And I assume at some point you had an opportunity to observe and presumably assess the location of an injury that you described as being near the pubis region, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the pubis is a bone just essentially superior or north of the genitals, is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. In this case, it was sort of north or superior of that, but to the left of the umbilicus, which is the belly button. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And he described pain in that area at a rate of 6 out of 10. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's kind of a standard pain scale, right? 0 to 10?
That is correct, yes.
All right. And you inspected it, and I think you described it as being either a laceration or potentially a puncture wound. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would another word for puncture wound be a stab wound?
It would be indicative of an object penetrating the body, which a stab wound would produce.
Okay. And it was actively bleeding, is that right?
Yes.
And it looks like in your report you approximated the blood loss, but that is just an approximation, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Certainly because you don't know how long the patient had been bleeding, correct?
Yes.
They're not bleeding into a container, so you can't measure the volume, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, did the patient also, in response to a question, inform you that he had approximately a half gallon of vodka that night?
He did.
Okay. And you placed him on a cot. Did you place him on the backboard before transporting him, or was that at the hospital that was done?
I don't recall placing him on a backboard.
Okay. Did you place him in the cervical collar that he was found in at the hospital?
Yes,
Okay. And that was just for cervical stability?
as part of our protocol.
Sure. Now, you testified that you were later called to the Crestview Apartments, correct?
I did.
And it sounds like you were there more or less to call time of death. Is that fair to say?
It is.
All right. And you found the patient in such a way, is it fair to assume you weren't able to place the monitor pads on the front? They would have been on the back of the patient?
They're leads, not pads. I'm sorry. We placed them on kind of the extremities of the patient. But yes, I believe there was some, the patient was in a position that it had to be navigated.
Sure. Just one moment, sir. Thank you for your time. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Mr. Larson?
No further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can just, yeah. The state may call its next witness.
State calls James Araby.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Please have a seat. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you state and spell your name for the court reporter?
James Raby, James Rabe.
And what is your occupation?
Currently a detective with Scott County Sheriff's Office.
And you said you're a detective?
Currently, yes.
How long have you been a detective?
Since October.
Okay. And how long have you been a law enforcement officer in total?
I got hired on in April of 22.
April of 2022?
Correct.
And prior to joining the Scott County Sheriff's Office, did you complete the police academy?
Yes, I did.
And I assume since April of 2022, you've been a sworn peace officer in the state of Iowa.
Yes.
Were you on duty March 14th, 2024?
Yes, it was.
And were you dispatched to an apartment complex that evening?
Yes, Lieutenant Leonard asked me to go to conduct a welfare check. Excuse me.
And where were you sent to by Lieutenant Leonard to conduct a welfare check?
To 105 Crestview Drive in
And
Parkview, apartment 4.
you said apartment 4?
Correct.
Did you go to that location?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do when you arrived on scene?
When I arrived on scene, I walked up the stairs and knocked on the door and announced myself.
And do you remember what time that was?
It'd be approximately 2:30 in the morning.
What did you observe regarding the apartment when you arrived?
The door was shut. Didn't hear any sounds. As I pulled up to the location, the kitchen lights were on, and the blinds were open. The living room lights were on, and the blinds were partially open.
And you may have stated this already, but what did you do when you approached the apartment door?
I knocked and announced myself.
And when you say you announced yourself, what does that mean?
I just knocked on the door and said Scott County Sheriff's Office.
Do you recall how many times you knocked?
About 2 times.
And did you receive an answer?
No,
Did you enter the apartment at all?
I did not.
From the exterior, were you able to observe any signs of foul play?
I did not see any at the time.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera that evening?
I was.
And was it functioning properly?
It was.
Have you had a chance to review the body-worn camera from that interaction?
I have.
Okay, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Handing Detective Brady with the marks of State's Exhibit 42. And was that body camera a fair and accurate depiction of what you observed that evening?
Yes.
Your Honor, the State would move to introduce State's Exhibit 42.
No objection?
Exhibit 42 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Wait for it to get on the other TV. There we go. Does your body-worn camera footage have a date and time stamp?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell us what the date and time stamp from this frame at the beginning of the exhibit is?
As March 14th, 2024, 2:36 a.m., 20 seconds.
And is that an accurate date and time stamp?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'll play the video.
Sheriff's Office.
what did you do after leaving that apartment?
I notified Lieutenant Leonard that there was no answer at the door and there was no signs of disturbance.
Were you later dispatched to Fred's?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what's Fred's?
It's Fred's Towing. They towed the vehicle there.
And what was the purpose of you going to Fred's Towing?
Lieutenant Lieutenant Leonard wanted me to collect evidence, to pick up the keys to the vehicle, the cell phone, and a knife.
And did you retrieve a knife from that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Handing the witness was previously marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 29. I'll have you just take a look at that, Detective Raby. And is that the same knife you recovered from the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach again?
You may.
Did you retrieve anything else from the vehicle?
Just the cell phone.
Were you able to retrieve the keys?
No, they were locked in the ignition.
And the items that you seized that evening, what did you do with them?
They were placed in evidence at patrol headquarters.
And is that standard procedure when you collect evidence?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, may I approach again?
You may.
Actually, I'm going to hold off on that. I apologize. What did you do after collecting the evidence at Fred's?
Lieutenant Leonard wanted me to go to the hospital.
And what did you do at the hospital?
I stayed in the room with Beal.
Okay. And did you take any photographs or otherwise document the scene?
I did, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach now?
You may.
Handing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 35-1 through 35-6. I'll give you a few moments to look through those photos. Detective Raby? Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
And did you take those photographs?
Yes, I did.
Are they fair and accurate depictions of the photographs that you took or what you observed when you were actually there?
They are.
And generally speaking, what are the photographs of?
They're of Beal there and the blood and injuries that he had on him.
Okay. Your Honor, the state moves to introduce State's Exhibits 35-1 through 35-6.
No objection.
Exhibits 35, 1 through 6 are admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
There we go. Starting with 35-1, obviously, who's the subject of this photo?
That'd be Beal.
And is that Behal?
Yes.
Okay. And what is this depicting?
This is depicting his torso and his face.
Okay. And there's a pointer right behind you. I'll have you grab that. We'll probably point to some things. Do you observe any blood or injuries in this photograph?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And can you point those out?
Any blood right there. And some blood on his hands.
Okay. And you pointed initially what will be his left hip area. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then his right hand, which is over his torso.
Correct.
Okay. Looking at 35-2, what is this showing us?
This would be the area where he had blood, a stab wound there. And
Okay.
his red t-shirt.
And to be clear, do you know what caused the wound?
I do not know.
Okay. And I assume the wound would be under the gauze.
Yes.
Looking at 35-3, what is this showing us?
A picture of his left foot and ankle with dried blood on it.
And did you observe any injuries on his foot?
On his right foot I did.
Okay. 35-4, would that be showing us a similar photo of the left foot?
Correct.
35-5, can you tell us what this is showing us?
This would be a picture of his right foot with a little bit of blood on his big toe.
Okay. And then lastly, 35-6, what is this showing us?
That would be the cut on his left hip.
So this is what I think it was 35-1 with the gauze that will be underneath the gauze.
Correct.
Okay? Did you do anything else at the hospital as far as evidence collection?
I did, and I did grab his clothes.
Okay. What items of clothing did you grab?
I grabbed his shorts, underwear, and t-shirt.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Handing Detective Raby what's marked as State's Exhibit 31 and also State's Exhibit 32. Have you put those gloves on, Detective Raby, and then those are a pair of scissors also. I won't have you open it quite yet.
Okay.
Maybe you need to get bigger gloves for next time.
All right.
Have you start without opening the bag, but if you could find State's Exhibit 31, should be marked with I believe, a red sticker.
Okay.
Actually, don't know offhand. Is it labeled on the outside?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what does that appear to be based on what's on the outside?
This would be a red Under Armour t-shirt.
Okay. And are you able to tell based on what you see on the outside who collected that?
Yes, there is my handwriting on there.
And now I'll have you get a pair of scissors and cut through, I think it's a red evidence tape or seal. And once you get it open, I don't want to remove the contents quite yet. Just have you look in and see if you can identify the item. Do you recognize what's in there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what's in it, in the bag?
It's a red t-shirt.
And what red t-shirt is it?
The red t-shirt that I collected from Behal.
On March 14th, 2024,
Correct.
from the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, the state moves to introduce State's Exhibit 31.
No objection.
Exhibit 31 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
I'll have you take it out of the bag and show it to the jury. Okay, you can put that back in the bag now. And then we'll do a similar exercise on State's Exhibit 32. If you could take a look at that and, at least based on what's on outside of the bag, tell us what it purports to be.
These would be a pair of white and gray shorts.
And can you tell when they were collected?
They would have been collected on March 14th, 2024.
And can you tell who collected them?
I would have collected them.
Okay. I'll have you open the bag with the scissors now. And again, look in the bag to identify, but don't pull it out quite yet. And for the record, did you just cut through the seal on that bag?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you able to determine what was in the bag?
Yes, they're the white and gray shorts.
Okay, and are they the shorts that you retrieved from the defendant on March 14th, 2024?
Yes, they are.
And that was at the hospital?
Correct.
State moves to introduce State's Exhibit 32.
No objection.
Exhibit 32 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
If you could pull the shorts out and show those to the jury. You can put that back in the bag. The clothing item, exhibits 31 and 32, appeared to be like cut or torn. Is that something that you did, or did you retrieve them that way?
I retrieved them that way.
Okay. And after retrieving those items, taking the photographs that we've been through of the defendant, did you do anything else with respect to this investigation?
I just placed everything to evidence.
Okay, no further questions.
Ms. Striegel?
Thank you, Your Honor. So it's my understanding that approximately from 2:30 you did a welfare check on the apartment, is that correct?
Correct.
And at that welfare check, you saw no signs of foul play, correct?
Correct.
You didn't hear anything or see anything out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
And then the next thing, then do you recall being asked for an OWI kit?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would that have been the next thing that you did?
Yes, I would take that to the Deputy Turner at the hospital.
And did you check, OWI kits have expiration dates on them, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how long they typically last?
I'm not for certain, but I believe it's 5 years.
Okay. Did you check the expiration date on the OWI kit when you took it to, either before or as you were taking it to Detective Turner?
I believe I did.
And was it expired or not?
I don't believe so.
And then after that, would the next thing that you have done been going to collect the items from the silver Impala at Fred's Towing?
I was then requested to go to Fred's Towing to collect evidence.
And when you collected evidence from the vehicle, it's my understanding that you attempted to collect the keys
Correct.
and you were unable to do so.
Correct.
You also got a cell phone out of the car, correct?
Correct.
And you put that cell phone into a bigger baggie, is that correct?
Correct.
And why do you put them in, and you had gloves on, just like you have on today, correct?
I had gloves on, correct.
And why do you do that?
Why do I wear gloves?
Yes.
For contamination, protecting myself.
Okay. And when you're collecting evidence, do you want to place more than one thing in one of those baggies?
Depends on the location. We've put multiple items from the same location in a baggie before.
Okay. With respect to, but there could also be cross-contamination when you do that, correct?
Could.
You were unable to locate the knife initially, isn't that true?
Correct.
And that was because the knife wasn't where it was originally found in the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Eventually, you did find it in the back seat, is that right?
Correct.
And then you placed that knife initially in the same bag as the cell phone. And then you pulled the cell phone out and put it in another bag. Do you recall that?
I recall putting the cell phone in a different bag.
So you don't recall putting the knife and the cell phone in one bag and then taking the cell phone out to put it in a smaller bag?
I don't recall that part.
And then from there, you went to the hospital and stayed with Mr. Behal, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's where you collected the clothing that Mr. Behal had on, is that correct?
Correct.
And you also had occasion to view the injuries, is that correct?
Correct.
And you were there when Dr. Dewey was checking the laceration on Mr. Behal's left hip, correct?
Correct.
And you saw Dr. Dewey push a Q-tip into the laceration, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall how far that it went into the laceration?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Would you like to review your report to refresh your recollection?
Yes, I would.
I assume you don't have it with you, is that?
I have a copy here, folded up.
You may refresh your recollection. And just for purposes of this, it's about halfway down.
Yep, I got it.
Did you have enough time to refresh your recollection?
I did.
Okay. And how deep was that laceration according to the Q-tip that was placed in?
About 2 to 4 inches.
Okay. And then you also noted about how long that laceration was in your report. How long did you note?
About an inch, inch and a half.
Permission to approach, Your Honor.
You may. You may.
Let the record reflect that I've showed opposing counsel what defendant has marked as Defendant's Exhibit E. Will the record reflect that I'm now showing that Defendant's Exhibit E to the witness? Do you recognize this?
I do.
And is, with the exception of the exhibit sticker, is it a fair and accurate representation of what you viewed on the defendant that day?
It appears to be.
Okay, and what is it?
It appears to be the laceration wound on his hip.
Your Honor, to ask to move Defendant's Exhibit E into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit E will be admitted.
And permission to publish?
You may.
And is this the laceration on the defendant's left lower, or by his hip, lower abdomen?
It appears to be, yes.
Okay. And this is the laceration that appears that you saw with, however, this one is with sutures in it, is that correct, or stitches?
Correct.
When you saw it, it didn't have the stitches in it, is that correct?
I don't recall.
Okay. With respect to Exhibit 31, the red T-shirt,
Okay.
when you held it up, it was it didn't look like a normal T-shirt. Is that because of it being cut up?
I would assume so.
Okay. That's not the condition that you saw it in, is that correct?
I don't understand.
So when you saw it on the defendant, it was a whole T-shirt, is that correct?
No, it was underneath him.
Okay. So it was actually in the condition that you saw it in?
I
Exhibit
believe
31.
so. I just took it from the defendant and placed it into evidence.
Okay. So it's my understanding that you didn't actually hold it up like you did for the jury to inspect it.
Correct.
Is that the same with Exhibit 32, the gray and white shorts?
I took it from the defendant and placed it into evidence.
And you also didn't hold it up to check it like you did with the jury, is that correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Mr. Larson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you present when the defendant was receiving medical treatment or no?
Nurses did come in and out, and doctors did.
Okay. Like, we saw the picture with the stitches on the wound.
Correct.
Were you there when the stitches were were done on him?
I believe so, but I can't recall.
Okay, no further questions.
Ms. Striegel,
Nothing further.
you may step down. We'll have somebody collect the evidence, sir. The state may call its next witness.
State calls Matt Lemon.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please have a seat there. The scissors, too. Thank you. Mr. Larson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Matt Lemon, M-A-T-T-L-E-M-O-N,
And what is your occupation?
IT supervisor,
Where at?
the weather station at the airport.
And then that's the airport in Davenport or Mount Joy.
Yes,
And is that near the intersection of Harrison and East 90th?
yes.
And what kind of, can you tell us about your educational and employment background up till that point?
I had a high school, I joined the Navy. After the Navy, I was employed with the Weather Service.
And how long have you been employed by the Weather Service?
2004.
And have you been at the same location the entire time?
No,
How long have you been in the Davenport location?
2007.
And you told us what you did, or at least the job title. Can you tell us your job duties?
I maintain all the IT equipment in the office and the electronic equipment.
And does the weather station have a security camera?
Yes,
And do you maintain that security camera as well?
yes,
Were you asked or approached by law enforcement on March 14th, 2024 about obtaining that security footage?
yes,
And did you provide that to law enforcement?
yes,
Have you had a chance to review the security footage from that prior evening?
the day the detective picked it up.
Right, did you, you said you did review that?
Yes,
And then we reviewed it again in my office a few weeks ago?
yes,
And did that appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the security camera from that time period?
yes.
And do you remember what time period that security footage was looking at?
Around midnight, I think.
Okay, if it was a little after midnight, does that sound correct?
Yes,
Okay, and I think you said it was a fair and accurate depiction of that as far as you could tell.
yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm handing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 40, which is the video of the security camera footage from the weather station we've been discussing. This time the state would move to introduce State's Exhibit 40.
No objection.
Exhibit 40 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, Mr. Lemon, I assume you see the screen with the footage on there.
Yes,
Okay. First of all, is there a date stamp on there?
yes.
And what is the date?
March 14th, 2024.
Is there a time on there?
Yes.
Now, is that time accurate?
It's probably an hour off due to this daylight savings time.
Okay, so what time does the video depict?
Probably 142, I think.
Okay, but does it say it's 12:42?
Yeah, it says 042, yes.
But actually, because of daylight savings, it'd be 1:42 or so AM?
Yes,
Okay. I'd like you to point, you see a street lamp, where you can't, you see the light from a street lamp that's off frame?
yes.
And can you point to where you're looking at? That'd be on the left side of the screen.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna play that. And did you watch, you said you watched the video, what happens to that light?
It goes out.
And what's making that light? Is it
I'm assuming something hitting it.
well,
I'm going to sustain the objection at this time.
that was a poor question. So we see that the street's illuminated on this frame, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what's illuminating that,
Be
that
the-
portion?
Light pole,
Okay, light pole, and where is that light pole located?
just southeast of our office,
Okay, is it in the street?
between the street.
Okay. When you say between the street, what do you mean?
The street's divided, it's one way on each side.
So in the median, essentially?
Yes.
Okay. And when you watch that video, what happens to that illumination?
It goes away.
Okay? We'll play it. We see the light go out at what would be essentially 1:42 AM.
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
Nothing, Your Honor.
You may step down. State may call its next witness.
State calls Landon Slegel.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please have a seat there. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Yes, sir. It's Deputy Landon Slegel, LANDON SLAGLE,
And where are you employed?
the Scott County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your occupation there?
Currently, I'm a narcotics detective.
And how long have you been with the Scott County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately 3.5 years.
And what were you doing with the Sheriff's Office back in March of 2024?
I was on a patrol.
And how long have you been a law enforcement officer in total?
3.5 years.
And I assume you went to the Law Enforcement Academy here in the state of Iowa?
Yes, sir.
And have been a sworn peace officer for the 3.5 years that you've been an officer?
Yes.
Were you on duty on March 14th, 2024?
Yes, I was.
Were you dispatched to 105 Crestview Drive in Parkview?
Yes, I was.
And was that to apartment 4?
Yes.
Who dispatched you there, or who told you to go there?
Lieutenant Leonard advised me over the radio to head to that apartment.
And what was the purpose for you going to that address?
The purpose of me going to that address was to conduct a welfare check on Taylor.
And what did you do upon your arrival?
Upon my arrival with Lieutenant Leonard, I knocked on the apartment door several times, announcing loudly "Sheriff's Office." After a couple sessions of knocking, I attempted to open the door. Initially, I thought the door was locked, and then once I pushed a little harder on the door opened.
Okay. And what did you observe when you opened the door?
I observed Taylor's body at the entry of the doorway.
And when you say Taylor, you mean Taylor Escontrias?
Yes.
What did you do upon seeing her body?
Upon seeing her body, myself and Lieutenant Leonard made our way into the apartment to conduct a safety clear of the apartment. Safety clear is just making sure that there's no one else inside the apartment, that suspects or anyone else that needs aid.
And did you locate anyone else in the apartment?
No, we did not.
What did you do after clearing the apartment?
After clearing the apartment, myself and Lieutenant Leonard exited the apartment.
And is the safety sweep, is that standard procedure?
Yes, yes it is.
Can you walk me through the sweep of the apartment, you know, what you did when you entered, and the actions you took?
Yes. When I entered the apartment, I believe I walked down the hallway to the bedrooms. There was a bathroom to my right and a bedroom to my left and a bedroom straight across. I went to the bedroom straight ahead, made sure no one was in there, exited, went into the master bedroom that was off to the left-hand side, made sure no one was in there. I also opened the back door because it had a patio to make sure no one was on the patio. Then I cleared the bathroom and then walked back to the kitchen to Lieutenant Leonard.
And what did you do after completing the sweep?
We exited the apartment.
And after exiting the apartment, what did you do?
After exiting the apartment, I started a crime scene log. The crime scene log is just identifying who comes to the scene and when they enter and exit the scene.
Okay. And at some point, was law enforcement able to identify the body?
Yes, I was able to positively identify Taylor based off a tattoo. Let me refer to my report.
Oh, just a minute. So, so you don't recall exactly how she was identified?
I identified her based off a tattoo that was in our local database.
Okay. And then what did you and or law enforcement collectively do at that point?
At that point, we, like I said, we exited the apartment and waited until a search warrant was obtained for the apartment.
Okay. Did anyone go on into the apartment from the time you left after doing the sweep until a search warrant was obtained?
Yes, the medic employee entered the apartment.
Okay.
And that is it.
And would that be Paul Tucker?
Yes, sir.
And other than medic employees or employee, did anyone else enter the apartment from the time you cleared it until you got a search warrant?
No.
When you arrived on scene, knocked on the door and did the sweep of the apartment and located the body, were you wearing a body-worn camera?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Handing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 43. Have you had a chance to review that body camera footage?
Yes, I have.
And does it fairly and accurately depict your observations from approaching the apartment and then doing the subsequent sweep?
Yes.
The state moves to introduce State's Exhibit 43.
No objection.
Exhibit 43 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, and before I start the playing the video, we've got essentially the first frame of that. Is there a date and time stamp?
Yes, there is.
And can you tell us what the date and time is?
It's March 14th, 2024, 0410 hours.
So that'd be 4:10 in the morning.
That is correct.
And where are you located at this moment?
At this moment, when I activated my body-worn camera, I was actually walking up the stairs. The Taylor's apartment is actually the apartment going to be on your right.
I'll play that.
Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, I got about it. Yeah.
Sheriff's Office, if you're inside, make yourself known.
You hold this kitchen for me. Yeah.
I'm clear back here, one sec.
Okay. Did you clear the kitchen? So?
Walk around that, just watch the blood.
Yep. Alright, yeah, we're clear there. Yep. Yep.
Once you left the apartment after sweeping it, was the door, or what'd you do with the door?
I believe I left the door open for some time, and then Lieutenant Leonard advised me I could close the door.
Okay, and why did you do that?
I didn't know better.
Okay. No further questions.
Ms. Striegel,
Thank you, Your Honor.
could you please turn on your microphone?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. When you were inside the apartment during the second welfare check with Lieutenant Leonard, did you see an empty bottle of vodka in the bedroom?
I believe I did.
And when we just watched your video in Exhibit 43 of your body-worn camera, that back door, was it locked or unlocked?
It was unlocked.
Did you lock it when you left?
I did not.
And it's my understanding that this video starts at 4:10 a.m. and that's when you first knock and announce, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And first knock and announce at this second welfare check, just to be clear. Is that correct?
Yes, the second welfare check.
And you stated that you started a logbook after that.
That is correct.
Do you recall what time that was?
No, I do not recall what time it was.
And you stated that was directly after you left the apartment?
That is
after you
correct.
closed the door?
I don't remember if I closed the door or before or after I started the log.
Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Larson,
No further questions.
all right, you may step down.
Judge, I'm going to need a couple minutes to set up before we start our next witness. I'm wondering if now might be a good time for our afternoon break.
I appreciate that. We will do so. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we will take our afternoon break. I would remind you of your admonition. Please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, and please continue to keep an open and attentive mind. We'll be in adjournment for approximately 15 minutes.
All rise for the jury.
Puentes has stated to the court he'd like to make a record on a matter. Mr. Puentes?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I only do this just based on experience with other similar trials. I've spoken to Mr. Larson informally. I just wanted to make sure that to Ms. Escontrias' family that we're going to be venturing into a portion of the exhibits that are going to include some photographs that can be grotesque, horrifying, etc. I know that some of them may very well elect to remain in the courtroom. Certainly, they're well within their rights. This is a public courtroom. But I would just, I guess, ask the court sort of advise anyone who chooses to stay just to try to, I guess, not draw attention to themselves, not, shout out, or other words, become a distraction. And to be clear, they've given me no indication that they intend to do that. I just, out of an abundance of caution, I think it's helpful.
Mr. Larson or Mr. Jones, if you wish to comment on that.
Thank you, Your Honor. My understanding is most or all of the family will be leaving for that portion of the testimony. If any do elect to stay, I do not anticipate any issues.
And it's good to note, sometimes these types of matters can be troublesome for actually everyone in the courtroom. And I would ask that anyone that decides to remain in the courtroom, I expect everyone to act like you would in a courtroom and maintain your decorum and not be a distraction to the jury. Thank you. Any other matters?
No, Your Honor.
All right. We'll bring the jury in. Mr. Jones, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Alex Grease.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat there. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Grease, would you please state and spell your name?
Sure. Detective Alex Grease, A-L-E-X, last name is spelled G-R-I-E-S.
Would you please tell us where you work?
I currently work for the Scott County Sheriff's Office, assigned to the Detective Bureau.
And what do you do with the Sheriff's Office?
As I'm assigned to the Detective Bureau, I oversee general crime investigations.
Are you a law enforcement officer?
Yes, sir.
Would you please tell us about your education and training to be a law enforcement officer?
I attended the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in 2006, employed then at the time with the Muscatine Police Department. I worked for them for approximately 4.5 years. After that, I worked for the City of Buffalo, both as a patrol officer and patrol sergeant, up until 2019 when I was hired with the Scott County Sheriff's Office.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that year for me, please?
I'm sorry?
Could you repeat the year you started with the Scott County Sheriff's Office?
July 2019.
Right. And what have your duties been with the Scott County Sheriff's Office since you started in 2019?
Sure. I started as a patrol deputy, working the streets both on second and third shift. Since then, I have been assigned to our SWAT team, or known as our Special Response Team. I am a traffic collision accident investigator and reconstructionist. I'm a field training officer and currently assigned as a detective.
Have you received any specialized training concerning processing of crime scenes, blood evidence, and blood spatter?
Yes, I have.
And would you please tell us about that specialized training?
I attended a 40-hour, one-week basic evidence technician course in 2007 through the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. I attended a advanced crime scene technology course in 2010 at the University, or Northwestern University of Illinois. And I have attended a blood stain recognition course, and I'm currently attending a 40-hour basic blood stain pattern analysis course.
As part of your duties with the Scott County Sheriff's Office, were you asked to, I guess, in some way get involved with the Christopher Behal case?
Yes, I was.
And when did you first get involved with the case?
The morning of March 14th, 2024, I was contacted by then Sergeant Josh Wall.
All right. And what were you directed to do when you started your involvement?
Upon arriving at the scene, I was tasked with scene photographs, processing, as well as evidence collection.
Okay. I'm going to take you a little bit out of order chronologically, so I'm not going to start with the scene. But generally speaking, were you involved with collecting and documenting physical evidence involved with this case?
Yes, I was.
Right. As part of your involvement, were you asked to take photographs of clothing that had been worn by Mr. Behal?
Yes, I did.
Did you take photographs of his clothing?
Yes, I did.
When did you do that?
That would have been on March 15th, the following day.
Right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you.
Detective, I'm going to hand you a couple bags marked as State's Exhibit 31 and 32. These have previously been admitted. Can you look in there and let me know if the items in those bags were the clothing that you photographed that you understood to belong to Mr. Behal?
Sure. State's Exhibit 31. Would you like me to remove them?
If you need to identify it.
Yes, this would have been the T-shirt that I was advised was taken from Mr. Behal.
Okay, and for Exhibit 32?
And these would be the shorts I was also advised were taken from Mr. Behal.
Can you tell us why, as part of a criminal investigation, and should I refer to you as an evidence technician with respect to these duties? Is that an accurate term?
It is, as well as that is part of my duties as a detective as well.
Okay. As part of processing evidence related to a criminal investigation, why would you take photographs of clothing that have been collected?
So we like to document them as we receive them, or in this case, as we receive them, as well as in place, such as at a crime scene.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've just handed you documents that have been marked for identification purposes as Exhibits 12-1, 12-12, 12-14, 12-19, 12-23, and 12-25. Would you please look through those and let me know when you're done? Okay, do those exhibits consist of photographs?
Yes, I did.
And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Did you take those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And generally speaking, what did you photograph in those exhibits?
These would be photos of Mr. Behal's shorts.
Do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the way the shorts appeared when you processed them?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 12-1, 12-14, if I didn't say it, 12-12, 12-19, 12-23, and 12-25.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
Your Honor, may I have permission to publish?
You may.
All right, Detective, I think I can see it behind you on the screen, Exhibit 12-1. Do you see a wooden pointer back there by where you're sitting? I'm sorry, I did not mean to make you do Pilates this afternoon. All right, can you tell us what you're looking at or what you photographed in Exhibit 12-1, please?
This is the front of Mr. Behal's shorts, an overall.
Okay, and is there anything notable about what we see on the shorts?
As you can see, that it appears to have multiple blood stains on it.
Are any of the stains, I guess, distinct from the others in terms of what type of stain they are?
There are a couple. This one here does appear to be a transfer stain, which appears to be possibly from a finger or thumb.
Can you explain what a transfer stain is, please?
Sure. Transfer stain is when you have, as an example, blood on your hand, and it is placed onto a clean surface and then immediately removed without swiping or wiping your hand.
And is there, or in Exhibit 12-1, can you see examples of a suspected blood stain that would be different from the transfer stain you've just talked about?
Sure. Up top here, we do have ones that appear to be in a swiping motion, which would be a blood-covered surface onto a clean surface and quickly moved. And then, excuse me, on the waistband here, it appears to be a saturation evident of pooling, which appears to have occurred while they're being worn.
Are there any other types or broad categories of blood stain beyond the three we've talked about?
There is, such as a wipe. Like I had stated, a wipe would be a clean surface going through a bloody surface, moving blood from one direction to another. A swipe, like I had stated, is a dirty surface onto a clean surface with directionality and movement. And a pooling is going to be a large, heavy, saturated area. That's what I can think of. Sorry about that. And the transfer stains.
Is spatter a separate category of blood stain?
Spatter is a separate category of blood stains, given how it is projected.
Can you describe or explain what a spatter is?
Spatters can be made from impacts, such as an object hitting something that already has blood on it, causing a spatter pattern, or such as cast-off can be done from something that has blood on an object and it is projected against a wall, and that causes a cast-off from that object.
If, let's say, for example, there's blood on a baseball bat and someone were to swing the bat, is that the sort of thing that would cause cast-off spray?
That's correct.
If you look at a blood stain, what would you look at to distinguish a spatter stain versus another type of blood stain?
So spatter stains typically are smaller. They're 1 to 3 millimeters. They can be grouped together, and depending on the type of spatter, they can be projected in like a radial motion, a cone, if you will, or with cast-off. Cast-off is very common to be a linear motion. As an example, if you're moving straight up and down with that object that does have blood on it, that is going to be in a linear fashion.
Can you see any examples of a spatter stain in Exhibit 12-1?
So it does have some spatter stains here, as you can see here, as well as down here and here. They're going to be those small markings.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 12-12. And what do we see in 12-12?
So, excuse me. 12-12, this is with a scale, the bottom of Mr. Behal's shorts, and given that this is the removal of his shorts, I believe by Medic, the left leg, and we also see spatter patterns on the shorts as well.
It looks like you were pointing to a cut kind of down the middle in the photograph. Were the shorts cut like that when you saw them?
Yes.
Take a look at 12-14. What do we see in 12-14?
This would be, again, also the bottom of the right leg, and here we have the potential to be such as a transfer or a swipe as well here.
Then 12-19?
12-19 is next to, on the left leg, next to the cut part of the shorts. And here you have, again, it's a possibility of a transfer or a swiping motion.
Do we see any spatter stains in 12-19?
Yes, we do, as we did down here on the bottom as well as toward the middle top.
And 12-23, what do we see?
Again, with a scale, we have what appears to be a transfer pattern, possibly from a finger or thumb, as well as coupled with some spattered patterns, multiple places. As you can see, they're very, very fine.
When we're speaking about spatter, how you can identify it in a stain, you described a size, I believe, of approximately 1 to 3 millimeters.
Correct.
We've got a ruler on screen. For folks who aren't familiar with metric, can you show what 1 to 3 millimeters looks like on the metric side, and then kind of what that would mean in terms of inches at the top?
Sure. So metric side, and I guess you could say the standard side. Centimeter would be from the outside line here to number 1 would be 1 full centimeter. The small hash marks in between would be 1 millimeter.
Okay, and so 1 to 3 millimeters, is that substantially smaller than an inch?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let's turn to 12-25, and what do we see in this photograph?
From here you can see what appears to also be a transfer pattern. Could not tell you exactly what from, but it has distinct formations.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you state's proposed exhibits 12-42, 12-60, and 12-55. Would you please take a look at those and let me know when you're done? All right, are those exhibits photographs?
Yes, they are.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir, I do.
And did you take those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And generally speaking, what did you photograph in those 3 exhibits?
That would be Mr. Behal's shirt.
All right, Exhibit 31 that we looked at earlier.
Correct.
Do the photographs in 12-42, 12-60, and 12-55 fairly and accurately depict the defendant's shirt, Exhibit 31, at the time you were processing it?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd move to omit Exhibits 12-42, 12-60, and 12-55.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I may have permission to publish.
You may.
So let's start with Exhibit 12-42. What do we see in this photo?
This is the overall of the front of Mr. Behal's shirt.
And I can't tell for sure if it's a wrinkle or not. Is the shirt cut open down the middle?
It is. It starts here at the bottom, as you can see, and goes up.
All right. Was the shirt in that condition when you first saw it?
Yes, it was.
All right. And are there any features of the shirt that you were trying to document with this particular photo?
Yes, sir.
And could you please walk us through those?
Given the color of the shirt, that is hard to see, but there is a noticeable wear pattern here, which also appears to have blood around that as well. And then down at the bottom here, you can see small dot here, and I know there's a close-up of another one that you have in exhibits that shows up here to be spatter pattern as well.
Okay, let's take a look at 12-60. What did you document in this photograph?
Again, dot here, that appears to be a blood spatter, and then also up here at the top.
All right. And then what do we see in exhibit 12-55?
So this would be from the overall on the lower left side of the shirt is a wear pattern. The purpose of this is I stuck my glove in there to show that it is a worn through.
Was the shirt, was there like a cut, like a sharp object had sliced through that wear pattern?
It doesn't appear to, it appears just to be a wear pattern.
All right. What did you do with exhibits 31 and 32 after you photographed them?
After we photographed them, they were, we documented obviously everything that needed to be documented, and they were repackaged and they would have been sent to the DCI.
Right. When the sheriff's office collects physical evidence, we'll talk about the DCI in a moment, but where is this evidence stored for the sheriff's office?
Sure. So we have a permanent holdings as well as temporary holdings. In this case, prior to processing, it is put into a temporary holding cage at our patrol headquarters located in Eldridge. Upon processing, we did that in our secure lab. And then from there, once it is sealed in its bag, it is put into our permanent evidence prior to being transported.
Okay. And why, let's start with that first stage, that temporary locker. Why put it in a locker?
That's to ensure chain of custody and security.
Make sure no one tampers with it?
Correct.
All right. And I think you said you photographed the shirt and the shorts in a secure lab, is that right?
That's correct.
And can you tell us about your secure lab at the sheriff's office?
Our secure lab is where we do evidence processing. It is accessed primarily by our administration, access has by our administration as well as our one evidence technician, which we actually had to have permission to get in there to process it by our evidence technician.
All right. And then there's a sort of, you said a permanent locker that things would go into after that?
That is correct.
And again, is there limited access to the permanent lockers?
Yes, there is.
All right. You referenced the DCI a couple minutes ago. What is the DCI?
The DCI, that stands for Division of Criminal Investigations. They are a state agency.
Is it basically the state police?
It is.
All right. Does the DCI or Division of Criminal Investigations have a laboratory that, I guess, tests and analyzes items of evidence?
Yes, they do.
Is that commonly referred to as the DCI lab?
Yes.
And is that where law enforcement agencies from around the state would send, for example, items for DNA testing or to identify possible controlled substances?
Yes, they would.
And in this particular case, ultimately were exhibits 31 and 32, shorts and shirt, sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes, they were.
And how does evidence get from the sheriff's office to the DCI lab?
They are transported typically by our evidence technician by vehicle up to the DCI lab.
And where is the DCI lab located?
That's in Ankeny, if I remember correctly.
Okay. I want to jump to additional or different involvement with this case. At some point, were you asked to process a floor mat and carpeting from a car in connection with this case?
Sorry. Yes, I was.
When did that happen?
The same day as the processing of the clothing materials.
Is that March 15th of 2024?
That is correct.
Right. And who requested that you do something with the floor mat and carpeting?
Detective Rowland.
What was your understanding as to, I guess, the origin for this floor mat and carpeting?
From the driver's side of the vehicle, which Mr. Behal had wrecked.
And what did you do to process the floor mat and carpeting?
After receiving them, what we had done is collect two types of swabs from them, one being a control swab and one being a swab of the stained area.
Can you explain to us what a swab is, please?
Sure. The buccal swab is basically a long Q-tip, if you will, sanitary, of course. And we use those to collect such as DNA evidence, whether it is from blood or a human mouth, such as.
And how do you get, well, do you just swipe this swab or this Q-tip against the surface of an object with, for example, a stain on it?
That depends on the type of stain that it is and if it is dried or not. If the stain is dried already, what we do is we have distilled water vials, which we use, and we moisten the tip of the buccal swab, and we use that to swab the stained area to make sure we collect.
Okay, and if it's a wet stain, would you just take the swab and put it in there without having to put it in distilled water first?
That's correct.
All right. How, or what do you do with the swab after you have swiped it against a substance you're trying to collect to, I guess, make sure it doesn't get contaminated and it's secure?
So there's two different types. What we do is we have a sleeve that goes up over the swab tip just to ensure security and make sure it is covered, and then it is placed into a swab box, approximately this long, small little box. Both ends of that box are secured with evidence tape.
And then what do you do with the boxed swabs after you've collected them?
After they've been collected, they are entered into our evidence system.
Like we talked about with respect to the shirt and shorts?
That's correct.
And then potentially they would later be taken to the DCI lab for analysis?
Yes.
Let's start with the floor mat. I think I've asked you this, but could you walk us through what you did with the floor mat with swabbing, please?
Sure. Again, like every piece of evidence that we deal with, we photograph it first, and then we would have done a control swab, which is taken approximately 2 inches outside of the stained area, and that's just to, I guess, rule out anything that would be that could contaminate that swab or the swab from the stained area that we take right afterward.
Did you see a stain on the floor mat?
Yes.
And just looking at it visually, did it look like anything in particular?
It appeared to be a blood stain.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Can I get another pair of gloves, sir?
Pardon?
Have another pair of gloves,
Yes.
please? Thank you.
So Detective, I've handed you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 67. Do you recognize Exhibit 67 the way it's packaged right now?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell what it is?
As it's stated on the outside, it's the Chevy Impala floor mat.
All right. Is the floor mat itself in there, or are we talking about the swabs?
Oh, I'm sorry, the swabs from the floor mat, I apologize.
No problem. And did you, after you boxed up the swabs from the floor mat, did you put that box inside the envelope that you're holding?
Yes.
All right. And is that sealed in some way, or how do you document who's been into it and whether it's secure?
Sure. So on the back of the envelope here, we have evidence tape, which we use to secure our envelopes, my initials, and the date that it was sealed. As you can see, that was not cut, but it is always open from a different location. It looks like it appears to be an open once and possibly two different times, and resealed by whomever had opened it.
Okay. To your knowledge, was Exhibit 67 sent to the DCI lab for testing after you collected it?
To my knowledge, yes.
All right. And if it were analyzed at the lab, would you expect it to have been cut open the way you just observed?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 67.
No objection.
67 will be admitted.
And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you State's Exhibit 68. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is 68?
It's two swabs, one control, one bloodstained swab from the Chevy Impala carpet cutout.
And I don't know if I've asked you specifically about that yet. Could you tell me what you did to swab that carpet sample?
Again, it would be the control swab, and which would be within 2 inches from, as well as one bloodstained swab as well.
When you looked at the carpet, did there appear to be a blood stain on it?
Yes, there did.
And that's what you swabbed?
Correct.
For that one, was the blood dry?
If I recall correctly, yes.
Would you have had to use the distilled water in order to take the sample?
Yes.
And then after you collected the swabs from the carpet, did you again put them in a box?
Yes, we did.
And did you then seal it inside the envelope that's Exhibit 68?
Yes, we did.
And again, for that one, do you see evidence that you sealed it? And can you tell whether it's been opened at some point?
Yes, my seal, my initials and that date, and then 2 different seals and initials and date as well.
And was Exhibit 68 sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes, it was.
And having been tested, would you expect to see that the envelope had been cut open the way you've described?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to omit State's Exhibit 68.
No objection.
Exhibit 68 will be admitted.
Detective, I want to turn to the apartment on Crestview Drive in Parkview. Were you involved with processing the scene at 105 Crestview Drive?
Yes, I was.
And in particular, apartment 4 at that location?
That is correct.
And is that apartment building in Parkview, Iowa?
Yes, it is.
And does Parkview use Eldridge for its mailing address?
Yes, it does.
Is it a sort of a separate community subdivision otherwise?
You could refer to it as a subdivision. It is an unincorporated area of Scott County.
All right. So the apartment building at 105 Crestview Drive is located within Scott County, Iowa?
Yes, it is.
All right. Did you work with anyone to process the scene at the Crestview Drive apartment?
Yes, I did.
And who did you work with?
At the time, it was Sergeant Josh Wall.
And can you kind of talk about how the two of you would coordinate to process this particular scene?
What we did, or what I did first, was I was in charge of the photographs initially, and then him and I worked cohesively amongst us doing evidence collection as well as the evidence processing.
Okay. So as, to the extent Sergeant Wall was taking actions to collect evidence, were you there with him and participating the same thing at the same time?
Yes, I was.
All right. Generally speaking, can you talk to me or talk to the jury about how you process a crime scene?
Sure. First part, obviously, is our crime scene preservation. We want to make sure, obviously, no unwanted persons are in or out of that place, or nothing leaves that scene, so our scene security is first. The first thing that we do is we photograph, document by photographs, everything as it sits in place, every room, and then we come back and do an evidence-specific photos of things that we collect.
All right. When did you go to 105 Crestview Drive to process the scene?
I arrived on scene there at approximately 7:15 in that morning.
When you say that morning, do you mean March 14th of last year?
That is correct.
All right. And did you do anything to document or photograph the exterior of the building?
Yes, I did.
And did you photograph interior parts of the building that are outside apartment 4?
Yes, I did.
Like common stairwell and corridors?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you.
Detective, I've handed you exhibits, items have been marked for identification purposes, the state's exhibits 5-1, 5-3, and 5-5. Would you please take a look at those and let me know when you've had a chance to review them?
Yes, sir.
Do those exhibits contain photographs?
Yes, they do.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir.
Did you take them?
Yes, sir.
And generally speaking, what did you photograph in those exhibits?
State's Exhibit 5-1 is the exterior front of...
Please don't show this
I'm
to the jury
sorry,
yet.
I apologize.
No problem. Are we looking at the exterior, common interior hallway photos from the building?
Yes.
All right. And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the exterior and the interior stairwell of the apartment building located at 105 Crestview Drive in Parkview, as you saw them on March 14, 2014?
2024.
Oh, excuse me, 2024.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the correction. Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibits 5-1, 5-3, and 5-5.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
All right. What are we looking at in Exhibit 5-1?
This is the front exterior of 105 Crestview Drive.
Can you tell or point out where apartment 4 would be as shown in that photograph?
Sure. It'd be the upper right corner.
And then what do we see in 5-3?
This is the common stairwell leading upstairs to apartment number 4.
And can you see the entrance to apartment 4 in this photo?
Yes, I do. We're straight up here.
And then in 5-5, what do we see?
5-5 would be the rear exterior of 105 Crestview Drive.
And can you show us where apartment 4 would be in that photo?
Sure. This would be the entrance sliding glass door. It would be on the upper left side.
All right. And it looks like there's maybe some police tape at the bottom of the stairway leading up to that patio. Is that right?
That is correct.
Was that tape in place when you arrived?
Yes, it was.
As part of processing the scene, did you move throughout apartment 4 at 105 Crestview Drive?
Yes.
And were you able, well, having gone through there, were you able to determine the layout of the apartment well enough that you could make a hand drawing of the apartment's features?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 49. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And what is Exhibit 49?
It is a hand-drawn layout, not to scale, of the apartment number 4.
All right. Does Exhibit 49 fairly and accurately show the general layout, understanding it's not to scale, of apartment 4 at 105 Crestview Drive as you saw it on March 14, 2024?
Yes, it does.
And would referring to the diagram in Exhibit 49 assist you in explaining to the jury what you did while you processed the scene and the things that are shown in the photographs that you took?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 49.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 49 will be admitted.
All right. May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
All right. Can you kind of walk us through what's in the diagram in 49, please?
As stated, it is a hand-drawn, not to scale, of the apartment number 4.
Okay. And can you, let's start at the bottom. We see a B2 and a B1. What are those?
That's going to be bedroom 1 and bedroom 2.
And there's sort of a thicker black line at the bottom of bedroom 1. What is that?
That indicates the sliding glass door.
So if you were coming into the apartment from the back, you go up those stairs onto that patio and go through that door?
That is correct.
Right. And then what do we see above the 2 bedrooms?
Above bedroom 1 would be the living room area. Above bedroom 2, bath and hallway and kitchen.
All right. And there are some rectangles and boxes in the kitchen and the living room. Could you explain what those are?
Yes. Starting with the living room, this box here would be the love seat style couch that was in there, as well as the small box would be a recliner. The kitchen, this here would be the refrigerator in the kitchen, and this one here would be the dining table, if you will.
And can you show us where the doors are within the apartment on the diagram.
Sure. As stated here, this would be the sliding glass door to the rear of the entrance. This here would be the front door as you would enter off of Crestview Drive, the front of the building.
Did you process the primary bedroom marked as B1 in Exhibit 49?
Yes.
And what did you do to process it?
First was a documentation by photographs first, which would consist of doing overall photographs, and then it would be checking the scene for anything of evidentiary value.
Right. And so you photographed the contents of the bedroom?
That is correct.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you.
And Detective, I've given you kind of a bigger stack this time. I just handed you what have been marked for identification purposes. States Exhibits 5-9, 5-10, 5-11, 5-13, 5-14, 5-17, 5-19, 5-21, 5-155, 5-158, 12-75, 12-77, and 12-89. Please let me know when you've had a chance to take a look at those.
Yes, sir.
And are those proposed exhibits all photographs?
Yes, they are.
Do you recognize them?
Yes, sir.
And did you take them?
Yes, I did.
When did you take those photos?
If I may break them down, they were done on 2 different dates.
Thank you. For the photos that start, the exhibits that start with a 5.
Yes, all the exhibits that start with a 5. I want to make sure I review them real quick one more time, please.
I apologize. I didn't mean to trick you with that.
No worries. Yes, all photographs starting with Exhibit 5 would have been taken on March 14th, 2024.
And for the 3 that start with a 12.
Those would have been taken during evidence processing on March 15th, 2024.
All right. For the exhibits starting with a 5, are those all photographs of the primary bedroom labeled B1 in Exhibit 49?
Yes, they are.
And do those photos fairly and accurately depict how the primary bedroom and its contents looked while you were there on March 14, 2024?
Yes, they do.
And for the exhibits starting with a 12, it should be 1275, 12-77, 12-89. Are those photographs that you took of a cell phone?
Yes, they are.
And was that cell phone collected from the primary bedroom at the apartment that's labeled as B1 in Exhibit 49?
Yes, it was.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the way that cell phone appeared when you took those photos on March 15th?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd move to admit States Exhibits 5-9, 5-10, 5-11, 5-13, 5-14, 5-17, 5-19, 5-21, 5-155, 5-158, 12-75, 12-77, and 12-89.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, so let's start with 5-9. What did you document with this photo?
Again, the first thing we do is document the overall condition of the room prior to doing any searching or movement of objects, and this is depicting the wall as you walk in the left side of the bedroom as you walk in from the sliding glass door of bedroom 1.
So when you take this photo, you're basically standing in the sliding glass doorway?
That's correct.
All right. Is there anything depicted in 5-9 that I'll call of evidentiary value, something that was evidence that needed to be collected or that you thought demonstrated evidence of a crime?
Yes, there was. This here in front was a bandage with some medical tape on it. It was later found that it was from a plasma donation, and it was never actually collected. It was just initially thought it could be part of something.
Anything else of note in 5-9?
No, sir.
Okay, so what do we see in 5-10?
510, again, moving from the left to the right throughout the bedroom 1, we start seeing the end of a bed.
All right, is there anything noteworthy in 5-10?
At this angle, no, sir.
Okay. In 5-11, what do we see?
Again, we're still moving toward the right. This would be the head of the bed as well as a nightstand here next to the, if you're looking at the bed, to the right side.
And anything of significance in this photo?
You can start to see here on the bed next to the pillow and against the wall is what ultimately found to be a Hawkeye vodka bottle.
I guess I should ask, as we look at some of these photos that don't have items of evidentiary value, what's the purpose in taking these photographs as you're processing a scene?
These photos in general, again, document the scene as it was found upon our arrival.
Okay. Let's go to 5-13. What do we see?
Again, here, this is the right side of the bed if you were looking from foot to head. And here we have a nightstand on the right side as well as its contents.
Is there anything that stands out as being significant in 5-13?
On top of the nightstand here is a date book, and it had some, it was open to pages of that specific date range.
Okay. 5-14, what do we see here?
This would be the floor of also the right side of the bed. Over on this side would, for reference, would be the sliding glass door area, and bed obviously on the left side here. We have a garbage bag here, which was noted, as well as a towel here. I'll explain the white line was due to the fact it was dark and it was using my flashlight to get some more light for the camera. So that's not exactly anything specific. But the towel here we believe to have some sort of blood on it, but it turned out, I believe, just something from food or whatnot. It was not ever collected.
Then 5-17?
517 here, this was from looking from foot to head of the bed, the left side, again, showing a nightstand on that left side.
And was there anything especially significant in 5-17?
Not at this photo, no.
And what do we see in 5-19?
519 is the closet located in bedroom 1.
And anything significant in 5-19?
No, there's not.
How about 5-21?
So an overall of the bedroom, again, still located in bedroom 1. Two things that initially stood out would be a blood stain here, which appears to be from a transfer stain, and then you can see the Hawkeye vodka bottle in full.
I see there's some pillows sort of in the middle of the bed. Did anyone look underneath them to see if there was something below them?
Yes, we did.
All right. And if we go to 5-155, what do we see?
So underneath, it would have been, from the previous photo, the pillow closest, I guess, to the foot, if you will. We see evidence marker 22 being a cell phone. Evidence 20 would be the blood stain. This here would be the Hawkeye vodka bottle cap.
All right. Did you collect the cell phone next to marker 22?
Yes, we did.
And can you explain why we see these little yellow tents with numbers on them?
All the yellow tents with numbers and scales are to note pieces of evidence.
Those were placed there by you and Sergeant Wall as you processed the scene?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what do we see in 158?
So 158 would be, again, the up top, the bottle cap from the Hawkeye vodka bottle, and it would be the cell phone.
All right. It looks like the back of the cell phone is discolored. Can you tell what that is?
Yes, from our observations, it was dried blood.
Turning to 12-75, I think you said before that you collected the cell phone we've just been talking about and then photographed it the next day.
That is correct.
Is that what we're seeing in 12-75?
Yes, it is.
Which side of the phone are we looking at?
This would be the front side.
All right. Where did you take this photograph?
At our patrol headquarters evidence lab.
And I'm going to take you back one exhibit back to 158. When you lifted the phone off the bed to collect it. Was there any blood that had been transferred onto the sheets below it?
No, there was not.
And in 12-75, is that discoloration the blood you were referring to earlier?
Yes.
And 12-77, what are we looking at in this photo?
Still the front of the phone, using a flashlight to create an oblique lighting just to give more definition to what is on the front of the phone.
All right, it just gives different contrast?
Yes, it does.
All right, and is the color of light different from what you used for 12-75?
It would have been the same. Or, I'm sorry, from 1275, I apologize. That would be just the natural light of the room.
All right, so if I go back to 12-75, that's natural light?
That is correct.
And then for 12-77, there was a light source placed to make it brighter?
Correct.
Then what do we see in 12-89?
This is going to be the back side of that same cell phone.
And what do you note on the back of it?
Again, we still have dried blood on the back of that phone.
Okay. It looks like whatever surface the phone's been placed on has some lettering above the phone in the photograph. What is the significance of that lettering?
Sure. The reason we did that is we kind of broke the swabs down into 3 parts of this phone for the back side, labeled A, B, and C. So we took swabs from directly below center from each part of that cell phone.
Okay, so you did take multiple swabs of the suspected blood from the back of the phone?
Yes, sir.
Right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 66 for identification purposes. Can you tell us, well, take a look at it and let me know if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And what do we see in Exhibit 66? Or what is Exhibit 66?
Sure.
Excuse me.
It's an envelope containing 7 swabs from Miss Escontrias' cell phone.
All right. Is that the cell phone that was collected from the bedroom that we've been talking about?
Yes, it is.
And once you collected those swabs, did you, I guess, package them the way we discussed the other swabs?
Yes.
And is Exhibit 66 labeled and sealed so you can determine whether it's been tampered with?
Yes.
All right. Do your initials appear on there?
No, they do not.
Okay. Do you know who, I guess, sealed 66 after it was collected?
Sure. Sergeant Josh Wall.
And are his initials on there?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell whether 66 has been opened?
Yes.
And I should ask, was Exhibit 66 sent to the DCI crime lab for testing?
Yes, it was.
And if it had been tested, would you expect that the envelope in 66 to have been opened the way we see it today?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd move to omit State's Exhibit 66.
No objection.
Exhibit 66 will be admitted.
Detective, as part of processing the apartment on Crestview Drive, did you also process the bathroom?
Yes, I did.
Can you put me back up, please? And if we look back at Exhibit 49, we were in B1, and can you show us again where the bathroom is to help us stay oriented?
Sure. The bathroom is located directly above bedroom 2.
All right, so if you're standing at the doorway to bedroom 1 looking at the bathroom, would you see a door to the spare bedroom on your left?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
And Detective, I've handed you what have been marked as exhibits for identification purposes as 5-22, 5-31, 5-32, 5-33, and 5-200A. Would you please take a look at those and let me know when you've had a chance to review them?
Yes, sir.
Hey, do those exhibits contain photographs?
Yes, they do.
And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Did you take them?
Yes, I did.
And when did you take those photos?
That would have been March 14th, 2024.
Right. And do those photographs show the bathroom at apartment 4 at 105 Crestview Drive?
Yes, I do.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the bathroom and its contents as you saw them on March 14, 2024?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move to omit State's Exhibits 5-22, 5-31, 5-30, 32, and if I said that already, I meant 5-22, 5-33, and 5-200A.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish?
You may.
So what do we see in 5-22?
So 5-22, this photo is taken from bedroom 1, looking through the hallway, the short hallway, toward the bathroom.
Right. And can you see the entrance to the spare bedroom in this photo?
You can, slightly here to the left, it's going to be this door frame here.
All right. Is there anything of evidentiary significance in 5-22?
We did observe some loose hair in the hallway, which was later labeled with an exhibit tent and collected.
What do we see in 5-31?
This is going to be the entrance to the bathroom from outside in the hallway.
Is there anything that stands out as especially significant in 5-31?
No, there's not.
What do we see in 5-32?
This is going to be the floor of the same bathroom from the hallway as well. And primarily there is strands of hair here as well.
All right. Is it unusual to find strands of hair in a bathroom?
No, it's not.
All right. What do we see in 5-33?
This is going to be also from right inside the doorway of the bathroom, the shower and its contents that when we arrived on scene.
I'm going to take you back. In 5-31, can we see a medicine cabinet within the bathroom?
Yes, we can here on the right side.
And did you look inside the medicine cabinet?
Yes, I did.
And what do we see in 5-200A?
We see prescription medication bottles.
All right. And were those found in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom?
Yes, they were.
And is there a name on the prescription bottles?
Yes, they're in the name of Christopher Behal.
All right. And obviously there's some blue boxes on there. Is that the way it appeared as you took the photograph?
Not without the blue boxes.
Okay. Were those added later for privacy consideration for Mr. Behal?
Yes, they were.
All right. As part of your work at the scene, I guess I should ask this. Why do you take a photograph of prescription bottles with the defendant's name on them?
A couple different reasons. We document types of medication as well as we document indicia showing occupancy of the residence.
Meaning that if there's something belonging to a person at the residence, it's more likely they live there?
That's correct.
All right. As part of your work at the apartment 4 on Crestview Drive, did you process the spare bedroom?
Yes, we did.
And let's go back to 49. Where is the spare bedroom?
The spare bedroom is labeled as bedroom 2 here on the lower left.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Okay, Detective, I've shown you, or handed you, would have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 5-23, 5-24, 5-25, 5-26, 5-27, 5-28, and 5-29. Would you please look through those and let me know when you're done?
Yes, sir.
All right. And do those exhibits contain photographs?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Did you take those photographs?
Yes, I did.
When did you take them?
The morning of March 14th, 2024.
Right, and are those photographs from the spare bedroom at 105 Crestview Drive, apartment 4 in Parkview?
Yes, they are.
Do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the spare bedroom and its contents
Yep.
as you saw them on March 14, 2024?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 5-23, 5-24, 5-25, 5-26, 5-27, 5-28, and 5-29.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
All right, so what do we see in 5-23?
5-23 is taken from the hallway in between the bathroom, and if it would be back this way would be the bedroom 1, and is looking into bedroom 2.
Is there anything that we see in 5-23 that stands out as especially significant?
Nothing significant for the fact there is just loose clothing lying on the floor.
What do we see in 5-24?
So this would be taken, I guess, more of a 90-degree angle through the doorway of bedroom number 2 with clothing and other materials lying on the floor of the bedroom, as well next to the closet located on the left inside that bedroom.
Do we see anything of evidentiary significance in 5-24?
Nothing that was collected. The only other thing would be the Gatorade bottle here on the floor.
And turning to 5-25, what are we looking at?
Again, same thing. We have that Gatorade bottle there on the floor. And then, again, the loose clothing located on the floor as well.
Is there anything in 5-25 that's particularly significant to the investigation?
No.
What do we see in 5-26?
Again, a different angle of that same clothing from the previous photo on the floor of that bedroom.
And anything especially stand out with this photo?
No.
In Exhibit 5-27, what do we see?
More clothing located in totes, again, still in that same bedroom.
And 5-28?
Different angle of same totes.
Anything especially significant there?
No.
And then 5-29.
This would be the closet located in bedroom number 2. Nothing was located inside besides the hangers on the rack.
All right. I'm going to go back to Exhibit 49. Did you process the hallway sort of in the center of apartment 4 that day?
Yes.
And can you point out where the hallway is?
The hallway would be this row here.
Okay, and that leads, does that lead from the bedroom area to the living room, kitchen area?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what have been marked for identification purposes. The State's Exhibits 5-34, 5-40, 5-73, 5-77, 5-179, and 5-180. Would you please let me know when you've had a chance to take a look at those?
Yes, sir.
All right, did those exhibits contain photographs?
Yes, they do.
And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir.
Did you take them?
I did.
And did you take them as you're processing the apartment on March 14, 2024?
Yes, I did.
And do those particular photographs document that interior hallway at the Crestview Drive apartment that we've been talking about?
Yes, it does.
Do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the appearance of the hallway and its contents when you saw them on March 14, 2024?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 5-34, 5-40, 5-73, 5-77, 5-179, and 5-180.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
So what do we see in 5-34?
So I'm standing approximately in the mid hallway area. If it was directly behind me would be the bedroom number 2. To the left would be the bathroom, looking toward the kitchen here. We can start seeing multiple areas of blood stains and blood patterns.
All right, and before we keep moving, I know I'm thirsty talking this much and you're talking more than me. Do you need some water?
I would appreciate it.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor? Oh. you very much. Anything else in 5-34 that's important to the investigation that we have not discussed yet?
Yes. Two things. There's a floor fan here, and there's additional blood stains and pooling on the other side of it. And then on the far side of the living room area, you see a pink clothing material, which ended up being a shirt.
Okay. Let's look at 5-40. What do we see here?
Again, this is taken from that floor fan area behind the couch from the living room. We can see a heavy blood pooling, saturated blood here on the carpet. It was wet upon arrival and then stayed wet throughout our investigation while we were there. And then you can start seeing multiple blood stains and different patterns, as well as on the wall.
Right. You mentioned the pool of blood next to the fan stayed wet. As we go through and see additional blood stains, were any of the others still wet by the time you left the scene?
Now, there were a couple others, yes.
Okay. Turning to 5-73, what are we looking at?
So this would be the opposite end of the hallway, kitchen on my right, and living room would be on the left here. It's still the same hallway from the previous photo, and we can see different blood transfer pattern swipes here on the end cap wall, as well as on the lower part of the wall.
And what do we see in 5-77?
So 5-77 shows where the floor fan is for reference in that same hallway, and wall is the large blood pooling with a scale.
Did you take a swab from that blood stain we see next to the fan in 5-77?
Yes, we did.
And for that one, did you need to use distilled water to loosen up the sample?
No, it did not.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 61. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 61?
Their blood swab, which were taken from what is located as tent number 14, which in reporting was labeled as that pool in that photograph.
All right, so what you have in 61 of the swabs that you and Sergeant Wall took from the blood stain that we see on the carpet in 5-77?
That's correct.
And along, like the other blood swabs we've talked about, were they first put into a box
Yes, they were.
and then placed in the envelope that you're holding?
That is correct.
And can you see seals placed on that envelope to make sure it's secured?
Yes,
Are your initials on there?
they are not.
And are Sergeant Wall's initials on there?
Yes, they are.
Can you see whether that envelope has been opened since you and Sergeant Wall sealed it?
Yes, it appears to.
Was Exhibit 61 sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes, it was.
And would you expect it to have been opened the way you see it today, had it been tested at the DCI lab?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I move to omit State's Exhibit 61.
No objection.
Exhibit 61 will be admitted.
Is there anything, if you could put, slide back up, please. All right, is there anything else that was significant to your investigation in 5-77 that we have not discussed?
Just the other patterns that you have here, you have multiple blood stains, which appear to be a movement stain here, and then as they continue, multiple around, and then we do see the swipes and transfer on the wall as well.
Turning to 5-179, what do we see?
So this here is going to be a transfer pattern. It's from a heavily saturated area of the what we believe to be Ms. Escontrias' body had somewhat rested against this part, heavily saturated enough to create blood flow down the wall.
The witness has testified to a specialist.
Overruled.
If you could please finish your response, sir.
Sure. In addition to the large blood spot here, we have some swipe marks as well that move down the wall.
It looks like there's a white sticker with some writing on it in the middle of the wall. Was that sticker there before you processed the scene?
No, it was not. I placed that there.
What's the purpose for putting that sticker there?
So this area in general, these stains were labeled as tent number 13, separate from 14 by the fan, and we labeled spots on the wall as 13A and B, and this is labeled as 13B.
And why did you want to label them?
They're significant, showing movement through the apartment.
Did you take a swab sample from the blood around that area you've marked as 13B?
I believe we did, yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Excuse me.
Detective, I've handed you an envelope that's been labeled State's Exhibit 62 for identification purposes. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 62?
It is a blood swab taken from tent, which is labeled 13B.
So that is a box containing swabs like we've talked about with other samples?
That's correct.
And that swab was taken near the sticker we see in 5-179?
That is correct.
And has the envelope on the outside of Exhibit 62 been sealed to, I guess, ensure against tampering?
Yes, it is.
Does that have either your initials or Sergeant Wall's initials?
It has Sergeant Walls.
All right. Can you tell whether the envelope that's the exterior of Exhibit 62 has been opened since Sergeant Wall sealed it?
Yes, it has.
And was Exhibit 62 sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes, it was.
If it had been tested at the DCI lab, would you have expected it to appear to have been opened as we see it today?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 62.
No objection.
Exhibit 62 will be admitted.
Then turning to 5-180, what are we looking at?
So this is on that same wall. Again, we used a label of 13C on this, which appears to be a swipe created from a hand.
All right. Was there any suspected blood on the light switch casing?
There is on the right side here.
All right. And again, do we have another sticker to, I guess, particularly identify a stain on the wall?
Yes, we do.
All right. Is that 13C?
Yes, it is.
And did you take a swab from the suspected blood near that sticker labeled 13C?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Excuse me. Sure.
Just handed you what's been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 63. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 63?
Blood swab taken from what was labeled tent 13C.
And again, we have swabs are placed in a box and then sealed inside an envelope.
That is correct.
And is there an evidence seal on the envelope?
Yes, there is.
Is it initialed by Sergeant Wall?
Yes, it is.
And does it appear that that envelope has been opened since Sergeant Wall sealed it?
Yes.
Was Exhibit 63 sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes, it was.
If it were tested at the lab, would you expect it to appear to have been opened as we see it today?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 63.
No objection.
Exhibit 63 will be admitted.
We look at Exhibit 49. Did you process the kitchen within the apartment while you were there on March 14, 2024?
Yes, we did.
Again, can you kind of point out to us where the kitchen is?
Upper left corner.
Again, the two boxes we see around the K label.
This will be the dining table and refrigerator.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective handed you what have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 5-48, 5-51, 5-53, 5-55, 5-56, 5-58, 5-186, 5-60, 5-183A, 5-61, 5-193, and 5-66. Please let me know when you've had a chance to look through them.
Yes, sir.
All right, are those photographs?
Yes.
And do those photographs consist of the kitchen and its contents at apartment 4 at 105 Crestview Drive in Parkview?
Yes, they do.
Did you take those photographs?
Yes, I did.
When did you take them?
The morning of March 14th, 2024.
And do those, well, other than a blue privacy box over one item in there, do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the kitchen and its contents as you saw them on March 14, 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 5-48, 5-51, 5-53, 5-55, 5-56, 5-58, 5-186, 5-60, 5-183A, 5-61, 5-193, and 5-66.
No objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
All right, Your Honor, may I publish?
You may.
First up, we'll show Exhibit 5-48. What do we see in this exhibit?
So this is taken from the area of the living room toward the kitchen. Again, we can see the previous blood stains from the other photos as reference, looking into the kitchen at the dining room table.
And can you see anything on the floor as we look into the kitchen?
Yes, you can see more blood stain and blood pooling.
Turning to 5-51, what do we see?
Again, taken from the living room area into the kitchen, primarily focused on the flooring, not only on the carpet here, we can see blood trails here, but as we lead into the kitchen, there's blood stain patterns and pooling, and additional pooling back here by the refrigerator.
All right, did you take swabs from the blood on the kitchen floor?
I believe we did, yes, sir.
All right, and you, the refrigerator area, leave aside for the second, do you recall if you took a swab from the flooring, I guess closer to the carpet and the table?
If I could refer to my notes real quick, just to make sure.
Do you have notes that document where each of the swabs was taken?
Yes.
And it would help you refresh your recollection
It
if you
would.
looked?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the witness refresh his recollection.
He may.
Thank you.
And in particular, if you could try to identify where tent 9 was placed and where, if a swab was taken by there.
Yes. So we took a swab from tent 9, excuse me one moment please. Tent 9 was located, blood spot on the kitchen floor, which would be near the refrigerator.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 59. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 59?
Blood swabs taken from what was labeled tent 9.
All right, and that would have been on the kitchen floor somewhere near the refrigerator?
That is correct.
All right. Was that swab processed and handled the way we've discussed with the other swab samples we've discussed this afternoon?
Yes.
And so it was placed in a box and then sealed in that envelope?
That's correct.
And is there an evidence tape seal on the envelope?
There is.
And does it have Sergeant Wall's initials?
It does.
Can you, do you know whether Exhibit 59 was sent to the DCI lab for testing?
It was.
Can you tell whether Exhibit 59 has been opened since it was sealed by Sergeant Wall?
Yes, it has.
And would you have expected it to look like that if the DCI lab had tested the sample?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to omit State's Exhibit 59.
No objection.
Exhibit 59 will be admitted.
Let's turn to 5-53. What do we see in this photograph?
This is going to be the top of the dining table.
Okay. Anything that stands out as especially significant in this particular photo?
Just for the fact that we do have a wallet located here on top of the table, and both placemats are pushed over to one side.
Was that wallet collected?
It was.
And were you able to, is there any indicia in it that would help identify whose wallet it is?
Yes, there was.
And did you determine whose wallet it was?
It was an ID from Miss Escontrias.
All right. Did that ID include her photograph?
Yes.
Turning to 5-55, what do we see?
This is going to be taken from the the dining table area into the kitchen.
All right, it looks like we've got some counters and cupboards. Did you take closer up views of the counters and cupboards?
Yes.
Let's look at Exhibit 5-56. What do we see?
We're going to see blood pooling on the floor here, as well as blood-stained patterns, and a black towel, screwdrivers on the floor, as well as screwdrivers on top of the stove.
All right, at some point was a tent marker number 10 placed on the kitchen floor?
Yes.
And would that area be shown in Exhibit 5-56?
Yes.
Could you point out where marker 10 or tent 10 was placed?
10 was over in this area here, I believe, if I remember correct.
Okay. And did you take a swab of the stains on the floor where marker 10 was placed?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Okay, I've handed you what's been marked as Exhibit 60 for identification purposes. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 60?
They are also blood swabs taken from the location of tent number 10.
All right. And were those swabs or swab placed in a box and then into the envelope that's the exterior of Exhibit 60?
Yes.
Was Exhibit 60 sealed for preservation purposes?
Yes.
Do you see Sergeant Wall's initials on the seal?
Yes.
Was Exhibit 60 sent to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes.
Does it appear Exhibit 60 has been opened since you and Sergeant Wall sealed it?
It does.
And would you expect it to appear that way if the DCI lab had done testing on the swabs?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to omit State's Exhibit 60.
No objection.
Exhibit 60 will be admitted.
Turning to Exhibit 5-58, what are we looking at?
This is going to be the dishwasher and cabinet area to the right of the sink.
And did you take a close-up photograph of the items on the, I guess, the black cloth that we see in the center of the screen?
I did.
What do we see in 5-186?
From the previous photo, it's the screwdriver that is laying on that black towel.
And did you note anything in particular about the screwdriver?
Yes, on the shaft of the screwdriver up to the tip, it appeared to be dried blood.
And what kind of screwdriver is that?
A Phillips head screwdriver.
Right, so it's got sort of an X pattern on the head of it?
Yes,
Did you collect the screwdriver we see in 5-186?
we did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
And Detective, I've handed you what's been marked as Exhibit 25 for identification purposes. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 25?
It's the screwdriver as well as blood swab boxes.
And are there swabs inside those boxes?
It appears there is.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you collect swabs that we would see inside the box that holds 25?
Honestly, I cannot recall if I did.
Okay. Is it, did the sheriff's office send the screwdriver to the DCI lab for testing?
Yes.
And would that include DNA testing?
Yes.
And would you expect the crime lab to have taken swabs of the stains on the knife in order to see if there's DNA or blood there?
Yes.
And if that had happened, would you expect the crime lab to have maintained those swabs as we see in the box holding 25?
It appears I sent them back.
Okay. Does the screwdriver, as you see it in Exhibit 25, appear to be in substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to omit State's Exhibit 25.
No objection.
Exhibit 25 will be admitted.
Okay, turning to 5-60, what are we looking at?
So this is going to be the left side of the kitchen sink, also showing two other screwdrivers there.
All right, do you see looks like maybe a pile of mail in the corner?
Yes.
All right, did you look at that mail?
Yes, we did.
In the sense of, look at the envelopes.
Yes.
And what do we see in 5-183A?
This is some sort of letter or notice sent to, in an envelope addressed to Christopher Behal at that address.
All right, and is there a blue privacy box over the return address?
There is.
I assume that that's not the way it physically looked at the sign.
Correct.
Okay. Did you, excuse me, what do we see in 5-61?
This would be moving from the kitchen sink area to the left, and this would be the area of the stove. And then there is a white plastic bin, if you will, and screwdrivers loose on top of the stove.
Do you know if the screwdriver in Exhibit 25 matched, I guess, the set of screwdrivers we see on top of the stove?
It appeared they had similarities, yes.
Okay. Did you look into the cupboards above the counters in the kitchen?
Yes, we did.
What do we see in Exhibit 193?
So here is going to be I guess another notebook, if you will, small in stature, and then there's a empty knife sheath behind it.
All right. To clarify for the record, I actually had you look at 5-193, not 193. Did you collect the knife sheath that we see in 5-193?
Yes, we did.
And what did you do with the knife sheath after you collected it?
It was packaged and put in evidence.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I've handed you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 26. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 26?
It is the what appears to be the leather empty knife sheath.
That the one that was collected from the cupboard that we saw in 5-193?
That is correct.
And does the knife sheath in the bag labeled Exhibit 26 appear to be in substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move to omit State's Exhibit 26.
No objection.
Exhibit 26 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, we have hit a natural breaking point. Next would be the living room, which has a substantial number of photographs that we need to go into considering the hour. I'm not sure if you'd like to break for the day.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, we will adjourn for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I would remind you of your admonition. Please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, and please continue to keep an open and attentive mind. I'd once again ask that you return at 8:50 tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll start close as we can to 9 o'clock. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
All rise for the jury.